It is time to open my very first CGC Prescreen. Except this can't be all of the books, can it? Hey there, today I have an unboxing video, and in this video I'm going to open up my very first CGC Prescreen. Now, I have a little bit of an explanation and a story here. Just please learn from my mistakes. With a CGC Prescreen, the way that it works is you can submit as many comics as you'd like for CGC to grade professionally, but they require that you send in 25 books at a minimum. So I figured, all right, I will send a minimum of 25, and I sent 29, and I don't know why. It just quite random. I think I was just motivated and excited to try this for the first time, and for some reason had just a random submission of 29 comics. What I didn't realize is that they'll separate and segment out your orders also by 25 books. So when this shipment was received by CGC, one of the first things I noticed was they created 2 submissions out of 1, and I didn't know why, and I looked at the numbers and just saw, okay, they took 25 and kept that in sort of like a primary submission, and then they sat 4 books aside, and I was confused, like, well, did those 4 not meet the pre-screen settings that I'd configured? And I had chosen 9.8 for my minimum grade. So I just figured maybe those 4 weren't 9/8, and I got 25 9/8. I didn't know what the particular reasoning behind it was, but I learned that it was, in fact, that sort of cap at 25 books. So I'm pretty sure, or I'm hopeful, that this is somewhere between 1 and 4 slabs, hopefully 4. And there's no reason to hide the grades, as I'm learning now. This is exciting for me, but also new that I'll be unboxing a pre-screen. So it'll just be a matter of showing you the books that I chose to get graded. And then if there are any rejects, look at the rejects and see if I can figure out why. So I'm really, really excited. This will probably be the first part of 2, hopefully, as the other 25 haven't made it back. So that was the other thing, was these 4 were not fast-tracked by any means, but it almost makes me think that the 2 submissions were split, and then it went through some sort of different channel. I sent these books in, and they were received June 23rd. All 29 were received, and 25 books are still in that grading, encapsulation, scheduled, whatever that status is. Like the status of, like, hey, we're grading these, but we have no ETA. That is the status of the 25. These 4 went through that process very quickly, and then they were clearly shipped out early, so they didn't put all 29 together. So I'm assuming that it's really just a cap on how many slabs they want to ship in one shipment. Like, there's no 29 slab box. So they probably just say, we'll parse these out in increments of 25, and whatever the leftover is, we'll almost just treat them as separate submissions. Now, the other thing that I've learned is you're paying additional shipping. So it just don't do what I did. And for my next pre-screen, if I continue on with CGC, if this all works out, I'm going to submit 25 and only 25 at a time, because I don't want to pay for additional shipping fees when my order is split up, in a similar way to where your submissions are split if you want some of your books to get a custom label. It's better just to submit them all same tier, same services, whether it's pressing or custom labels, and then you're paying one shipment cost to have them send you the slabs back to you. So, part 1 of 2 of my very first CGC 9.8 pre-screen, and I can't wait to see what's inside. I'm hoping they're slabs and not a folder of rejects. Here we go. All right, very well packed, lots of bubble wrap, and then sort of the standard 2 pieces of cardboard on each side with the old rubber band. And let's see. Okay, so I'm cheating and I'm just counting, right? And I see 4 slabs. There's no additional little folder that says raw books inside. So I am 4 for 4 on this 29 book submission. So I'm thrilled about that, first and foremost, that that worked out. Now, let's take a look at the books. And I'm going to give my arms and hands a break so I don't have to awkwardly hold the books. I can just show them to you, which will be nice. Captain Carter, #1. And this is the cover A, just a standard cover in a 9.8 white pages. And around the time that I sent these books in, it was around the time of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And once I think the community was just kind of discussing this book, I will say, as her first appearance. And it looks like on the label, first comic book appearance of Captain Carter. Then people were like, okay, let's really take a hard look at this book and see if it's something that, we really want to add to our collections. And especially with Haley Atwell and her portrayal of Captain Carter, possibly getting news of even additional appearances of Captain Carter in What If Season 2, speculation that, she could somehow be back in the MCU. Who knows? It could have been just a one and done in Doctor Strange, and that's fine, but this is just a great cover. It's a great cover A. Just a great all-around book. Really solid. So once, everyone was kind of catching on to Captain Carter, I figured, I've got some of these. They look pretty good. And these books also were not pressed. So that was the other thing. These were books that I got at some point from somewhere, and I graded them personally as a 9.8 and didn't touch them. Just received them, examined them, saw them as a 9.8, and thought, yep, let's send it in. And this is why I did the pre-screen and pre-screen at 9.8, because if I did have any borderline books where I was like, oh, this could be 9.6, it could be 9.8, I didn't want the way that I grade to kind of get in the way. And what I mean by that is I'm really harsh and critical. I tend to overgrade on books. So I thought, well, this is a great opportunity to kind of test out the waters a bit. Like, yes, if I had clear-cut 9.8s, let me send them in. But also if I had books that I was like, boy, if this one little hairline tick wasn't there, it could be a 9.8. But then do I really fully comprehend and understand what CGC will allow in a 9.8? So this is a kind of an education for me as well to see if some of these books that I thought were a 9.6 came back as a 9.8. And we'll see more of that in the larger submission when it comes back. So this is a little bit of a teaser, but let's see here. All right, the next book, Black Panther #3. And this is the Joe Jusko Marvel Masterpieces variant. So with this being the first appearance of Tosin, I think that a lot of folks love that cover A or the 1 in 25. The Joe Jusko variant, you're either a Jusko fan or you're not, or a Marvel Masterpieces fan of the trading cards or not. But for me, I missed out on Black Panther 3. And I believe that I found this book on Midtown Comics, and I had to pay a little bit extra. It was beyond cover price at that point. And I just sort of did the math and just felt like, okay, if I did want to get some Tosin books, I'd have to go back and pay for it. But this was kind of my philosophy, right? Where I'll let a book go ahead and pick up some heat, pick up some steam, get that momentum going. And if it continues, at some point, I'll jump in, right? So I'm going to buy a book on its way up, but not at the peak, just get it on the rise. Instead of doing this mass pre-ordering, and listen, if you mass pre-ordered Black Panther 3, then awesome, great for you. I didn't. And if I had still been subscribing and pre-ordering, I would have got one copy of cover A anyway. So the fact that I could go back and get this one, I think this is a nice cover. I don't think it's maybe the best Black Panther cover I've ever seen, but this was one that I was borderline on, like 9.6, 9.8. I was pretty sure it was 9.8. And I remember when I was grading this, I didn't want to emotionally grade it. And I've talked about that too. You never want to add emotion. You cannot will a book into being a 9.8. You can press and clean it and possibly move it up into that range or move it into that grade. But you can't just look at a book and just say, I want it to be a 9.8 so bad. And with this one, and I can still see it, there's a non-color breaking hairline tick right in the middle. And then down at the bottom corner, there was some whitening right there. And to me, that's what was, it was definitely some some spine splitting down at the corner and some fraying and softening, and I was like, it's so close to being a 9.8. But I put it through the pre-screen, and it came back a 9.8, so there you go. So this is just, again, I'm learning, and I study these books too, and the little subtle differences between a 9.8 and, again, not pressed. There's some of the Marvel waviness in the cover. The back of the book looks really solid, so again, I'm trying to figure out just exactly and precisely what is CGC allowing currently with their submissions to get the 9.8. Okay, so the next couple of books on that Captain Carter theme. This is the Captain Carter design variant. This is the 1 in 10. What was interesting about this book is it was pretty much carrying the same value as cover A. And when folks were asked, like, why is that? Why? Because this is supposed to be a 1 in 10. And they just said, because it's ugly. And I love that response. It was just an honest response. Like, it doesn't matter. And it kind of speaks to kind of my philosophy around ratio incentives, where when they're slabbed, it starts to lose sort of its luster around the rarity or scarcity. However, the previous book, that 1 in 25 is nuts. Ultimate Fallout 4 1 in 25 is nuts. So there are those exceptions, but they're actually rare. It's not like a standard, like, oh, well, because it's a 1 in 10, now it's going to be worth 10 times cover A. And this is not a $1,000 book. So for whatever cover A went for, this one's around the same range, but it's not a 10x multiplier. This also has the Marvel waves in the cover. This book was not pressed, but it was an extremely clean copy. You have to watch out on the design variants too, just because it's mostly a white cover. You get color rub from time to time. So that's Captain Carter. Number 1, same thing, first comic book appearance of Captain Carter on the label, which is awesome. And the last book, I was very, very fortunate enough to get 2 copies of this book, and I had sent the first one in because I thought that was a no-brainer 9.8, and I had kept my other copy because I thought I wasn't exactly sure. But then when I thought, let me do the pre-screen, because if it is a 9.6, then at least I know, but I thought, why not take a chance? And I got Captain Carter number 1, and CGC designates this as the variant edition. Some folks call it the Marvel animation variant. I love this book because it has a really great retro style. It reminds me of the What If show. I was not the biggest What If fan from the comics and in the Disney Plus show, but when I watched it, I thought the animation was spectacular. I really, really loved it. So when I saw this book in the same kind of style as a mix of the What If Disney Plus animation style, plus with the retro Marvel Comics, but listed as Marvel Studio Presents, I loved it. And when it came out, even raw, it was a very highly sought after book, and I found it on a couple of online stores, and I think I paid right around ratio for it, and was just fortunate enough to grab a couple copies. Now, I remember on this one, there were 1 or 2 color breaking spine ticks, and this one's up in the corner box right there. I'll add some photos so you can see it. A little bit of softening up here in this corner. Frankly, the Black Panther 3, I think, was in worse condition than this one, and they both got a 9.8. Wasn't pressed. Back looks great, but very similar, actually, to that Black Panther 3 in terms of problems. You can definitely see it more on the back on this corner where it's a little soft. But, again, trying to educate myself. Maybe I'm too harsh a grader. But tremendous start to my pre-screen experience. 4 for 4. I hope the other 25 come back. Obviously, 25 out of 25 would be great. But I think in that one, probably see a little bit more of a reality check in terms of the books that I sent in and see what the rejects came back at. But that was my very first pre-screen unboxing where I set the pre-screen minimum at 9.8. Very successful, very happy with those 4 books, and can't wait to get the next shipment. Thank you for watching. Happy collecting, and see you next time.